evolving. The problem here is that the American people have been spendthrifts. Half of bankruptcies are occurring because people get sick and they don't have health insurance. A lot of the credit cards that people are racking up, the credit card that people are racking up is because at the end of the month their expenses just don't match up with what they're bringing in, despite the fact that they may be working 2-3 jobs. Many people go deeply in debt because they've got to pay for their kids' college education. So this is why it's so important that we understand that the fundamentals of the economy have been weakened. Wages and incomes have gone down $2,000 for the average family during George Bush. They went up $7,500 under Bill Clinton. That's a big differential for somebody who's making $40,000, $50,000 a year. And it's not surprising then that our savings rates plummeted. Look, people are going to make adjustments on their own. Most Americans I meet, they don't want to be in debt. They are embarrassed by the prospects of bankruptcy. You're already seeing in the transportation sector, people have changed their buying habits once gas got to a certain price. So I think consumers are naturally going to make some adjustments. But what we have to do is create, whether it's a sound energy policy that's focused on alternative energy and improved efficiency on cars, whether it's a healthcare system that's much more efficient and focuses on prevention, whether it's making sure that college is affordable. If we're doing those things that help folks get into the middle class and stay in the middle class, then we are going to be able to create a better cushion for them, and they're going to be able to save more. That will be good for the overall health of the system.
Let me ask a question about you that goes to risk and trust. Mm-hmm. When you saw the picture of those legislators in both parties with Ben Bernanke and Hank Paulson the other night, they looked frightened. They were looking at the potential for very severe economic dislocation, which would affect a lot of people's life savings. Right. When you talk to voters, how do you convince them to trust you as a relatively inexperienced person on the national stage, that they can entrust this economy and their savings to you?
Well, a couple of things. I think if you look this week, I was in constant communication with Hank Paulson, Ben Bernanke, my economic advisors, which include Paul Volcker, the former Federal Reserve Board chairman, Bob Rubin, former Treasury Secretary, Warren Buffett, who I think everybody feels knows the economy pretty well. And I think if you talk to those folks, they would say, this guy knows what he's talking about, and most importantly, he knows how to put together a team of people that know what they're talking about and has the ability to bring them together to ask the right questions and find solutions. I don't think that the American people expect somebody to deal with this who is a economics PhD. What they do expect is that we have a president who is engaged, who understands the arguments involved, who understands the principles that have to be fought for. And that's what I bring to bear in this race.
What do you think they've seen from John McCain?
Well, look, I'll let people draw their own conclusions. On Monday, John McCain said the economy was fundamentally sound. He then said that, well, what he was really talking about were American workers, which wasn't very persuasive. He was initially opposed to the AIG bailout. The next day he says that he's for the AIG bailout. He then calls for the firing of Chris Cox and starts sounding like a Huey Long populist.
You don't support the firing of Chris Cox?
Well, the point is, I actually do think that Chris Cox has not overseen the markets the way he could have, and he's a Republican appointee.
But would you fire him in the middle of a crisis?
Well, what I would do is I would say, let's get through this and then let's make an assessment. I think that what's important is to understand that John McCain still fails to recognize it's the overarching economic theories that have been operating over the last 8 years that need to be fired, that have failed. And that is not something that you have seen acknowledged yet. John McCain has historically said that we don't need regulation. In fact, he recently stated that he thought that we should use the healthcare, we should adopt the same principles of deregulation to the healthcare system as we have to the banking system. He's somebody who has been supportive of privatizing portions of Social Security. Imagine what would have happened if we had gone through with the Bush-McCain privatization scheme. You would have retirees right now seeing half, maybe two-thirds of their retirement accounts vanished. And so there is just a fundamental difference between John McCain and myself in terms of how we get this economy back on track.
Last question. Given all that, as we head toward the first debate, you're locked in a very close race. Perhaps you're slightly ahead. But some people look at what's going on in the economy and other political circumstances and think you should be doing better. And some people say it's because you're aloof. Some people say you're cerebral. John McCain says you're not ready to lead. Some people think it may have something to do with your race. Right. Why do you think, especially on the economy, you have not connected better than you have so far?
Well, I have to say that this notion that somehow it should be a cakewalk to win the presidency, it's never happened in history. A non-incumbent, people wisely, I think, want to lift the hood and kick the tires, and they want to listen to the debates, and they're going to make up their minds relatively late. And that's been true throughout history. So we feel very confident about the kind of campaign we're running. I think the most important thing that I want voters to think about when they're going into vote on November 4th is, can we afford 8 more years of the same economic philosophy? And I don't think anybody disputes, despite the change slogan that John McCain's been trying to hoist lately, I don't think anybody disputes that John McCain, his basic economic orientation is the same as George Bush's. He's got the same tax plan, he's got the same health care plan, he's got the same privatization of Social Security plan, he's got the same absence of a plan when it comes to college education, and he's got the same approach to regulation or lack of regulation.
Do you think race is a big barrier between you and swing voters?
Look, if you're asking me, are there some people who might not vote for me because of my race? Of course. Are there some who might vote for me because of my race? You bet. I think ultimately, though, the question's going to be decided by a guy or a woman who is working hard every day, trying to save enough to send their kid to college, trying to pay the bills. And the real question they're going to have is, can this guy help me in my life? Can this person, regardless of what he looks like and what his name is, can he guide the economy in such a way that I have a better chance of achieving the American dream? And is this guy going to fight for me every day? And if people look at my background and they see who I've fought for throughout my career, yes, as a community organizer, then as a civil rights attorney, then as a state legislator, and now as a United States Senator and candidate for president, I think what they can feel confident about is not only do my plans focus on Main Street and how we give ordinary folks a fair shake, but my track record that's who I've been fighting for as well, and I think that's going to be something that people understand by the time they vote.
Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.